what I've found as I've aged and matured with my consulting business is I've become a lot more selective about um, two things. Number one, how many companies I consult to at the same time, because
Okay.
I just have a certain amount of capacity in my head and my fingers and my hours to be able to do so much work, and I don't want to have stretch myself so thin that I can't do a good job for everybody. So one of the things I do is be careful about the number of companies I'm involved with, try and sell for or sales manage for. The other thing is I'm more selective about who and what it is. I don't
Uh,
I don't have to I don't have to be a sales manager for every darn thing that's out there.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Empowering Design Show, where we talk all things design and business with a focus on leadership. Here with me today is one of my good friends, Andy Schaidler from Complete Hospitality Solutions. We will learn how he got into the design industry, what his leadership style is like, and also we'll learn about what it's like being a national independent rep. And having multiple lines. When we'll also see what are some of the trends that he sees in hospitality and FF&E. Well, Andy, thank you for joining me on Power and Design today. Let's start out by telling me a little bit, or telling the viewers a little bit about yourself and how you got into the design industry.
My name is Andy Schaidler. I'm with Complete Hospitality Solutions, and I have always been a salesperson into the design industry. Just to be full disclosure up front. So
Okay.
I'm not an architect or designer. I don't play one on TV, and I don't try and play one as a salesperson either. I've always been somebody who sells into the architecture and design and hospitality and contract industry. And that started about 2000, 2001. I was working for a lighting company in inside sales just outside of Chicago. And they wanted to start a hospitality and contract division and asked me if I wanted to be in charge of it. And I said, sure. I don't know what it entails, but we'll give it a try. And I stumbled and fumbled at the beginning, and so did the company. And we eventually found our way, and I eventually found my way, and have been involved in sales and sales management ever since. So
Okay. So,
yeah.
what'd you do after the first company? What company was that?
That company, I was a salaried employee,
Okay.
and like many sales managers, I moved around a little bit from one company to another, and I've been in lighting for a long time, 30 years. But and I was always a sales manager, always a salaried sales manager at whatever company I was at. And
Hmm.
then when the last Great Recession hit, 2008, 2009, and architects and designers were laying off staff left and right, and other companies were laying people off left and right. It became very difficult for me to find a job as a salaried sales manager, or vice president or national sales manager. So I rebranded myself as an available contract employee and started offering my services to company on a contract basis, working on a weekly or monthly fee and the commission rather than drawing a salary. And that's how I got involved in working as a contract employee.
Yeah. One thing I learned from this last and the camera keeps going in and out. This last r- you know, we'll say recession or whatever you want to call it, is that you need multiple sources of income. And I think that is, I went from working in the design industry to I'm going to start my own business and I don't want to work for anybody. And I'm never going to do that. And shortly before end in, we'll say 2019, right before, 2020, I was like, let me just get a part-time job just to let, ends meet. And that way, I can make some money and yeah. So
It's it, it's always on my mind.
yeah.
Uh, when it's quiet, when business is quiet, when orders are quiet, there's still a lot of work that needs to be done when you're running a consulting business, when you own a company,
Hmm.
own multiple companies like I do. There's still work that needs to be done, but without the cash flow, you sort of like, how much busy work do I want to do just to look busy if I can't pay the electric bill or can't pay my cell phone bill or can't buy groceries and like that. And I have those very frank conversations with my independent outside salespeople all the time because they're all working on a pure commission basis only. I'm very frank with them and say, look, you do whatever you have to keep, put groceries on the table for your family. And if it involves taking a step back from selling into a particular marketplace because there just isn't a lot of business right now, and you need to do something else, that's okay.
Yeah.
The last recession that we had, 2008, 2009, there were a lot of architects and designers that got furloughed or laid off or fired who, once that recession was over with and these firms wanted to hire them back, they had gone off into other industries. They became chefs, or they became landscapers, or they became they went back to school and got a degree in therapy or whatever it might be, and just said, you know what, the architecture industry or design industry or hospitality industry or country, you turned your back on me, and I don't want to be part of it again, no matter how desperately you need. And if you think of it, right up until 2018, 2019, a lot of firms were really desperate trying to find qualified people to work for their firms, whether they
Yeah.
were hoteliers or restaurateurs or architects or designers or manufacturers. They're always struggling or always stealing people from one firm to the other to try and build up because they're still recovering from that.
Yeah.
And it's just a lot of people who get discouraged or frustrated when they're treated that way and don't come back to the industry. And I suspect, we're seeing it now already in the current post COVID
Yeah.
alpha, in the COVID delta economy. That places are there are places that I consult to that are desperately trying to find
I
people to work with.
mean,
Unfortunately, I can't hire anybody, but there are other places that want to and they can't. And I have a feeling that this is the same thing we're going to go through again, where you're going to find that people are going to go find a different industry that
yep.
pays their bills, and they're going to say, you know what, I don't have to be on this roller coaster anymore in whatever industry I was in before. It's
Yeah.
unfortunate.
Yeah, I definitely see that happen in the hospitality industry. I mean, it's crazy. Like even in we'll say the
All industries, all
all
industries.
industries, but yeah, especially the hospitality industry. As far as like the restaurants and hotels side, because nobody wants those jobs anymore. They don't want to be paid,
And
barely above minimum
and the
wage.
and the housekeepers don't want to be housekeepers, and the dishwashers don't want to be
Hmm.
dishwashers, and the cooks don't want to be cooks, and the hostesses don't want to be. And it's not. It's just because they we couldn't treat them well enough
Yeah.
as things went south, and it's nobody's fault. Um, and I feel bad because people are a lot of times they're asking me, hey, are you hiring? Do you need help? And I'm like, oh God, do I need help? But can I afford to hire you?
Yeah.
No. I the Chamber of Commerce, I mean, they're always wanting to have webinars and seminars on vaccinating your employees and how to interview and how to hire them. Like, that'd be great if I had enough cash flow to be able to hire another person. I could certainly use the help, but I can't afford it. And so I feel bad for people, and I also get it that they're just like, well, maybe I'm going to do something else. Maybe I'm going to do something that I enjoy better.
So, what is the culture like at Complete Hospitality Solutions now that you are doing a lot of stuff, remotely? I guess.
I take everything to heart and work really hard. So in my mind, when I'm not working, I'm always thinking about, well, what should I do first, and what should I do tomorrow morning, and what should I do and can I stop after dinner and can I do a few more things? And is there something I can do on my iPad? Is there something I can do on my phone? Do I have to be my laptop? Do I need to call somebody instead of email them? So my culture sort of evolves and adapts, but um, people always they always tell me they marvel at how many things I can handle at one time, and uh, and
I will say that's true.
I always tell them, but I don't do a good job of it. So apparently, I'm good at impressing people. But it's a challenge to be a consultant. It's a challenge to work independently, and I work from home. And my culture probably needs some refining. I probably need to learn to not start so soon and to not work so late and to not work weekends and to not have a drink or dinner and be sitting and talking to my friends and family about work stuff, sounding it off them when they
Yeah.
couldn't care less what I'm talking about. It's like I gotta
Um,
stop talking about work for 3 seconds.
yeah. But you have other sales associates that work for you, you said. So how, as
Yeah.
far as like interacting with them, how is that?
So they're all independent salespeople.
Okay.
Uh, so the only difference between me is complete hospitality solutions and them working for my fabric company or my lighting company or my case goods company is that they're working with and for somebody as a sales manager who's also independent. So it's the
Okay.
same thing. It's my daily routine is a constant barrage of emails and text messages and phone calls between me and the various reps around the country, whatever
Okay.
projects they have, whatever questions their customers may have, whatever needs they may have for samples, pricing, and stuff like that. And they're always, God love it. The one thing that I've learned in this industry as a sales manager and as a national sales manager is that every sales rep, and every independent sales rep out there in the country is different in their personality,
Yeah.
and each city is different, and each state is different, and each marketplace is different, and each of those salespeople have learned to adapt to what works right for their city and for their customers in their city or their state or their territory. And what works for one salesperson in one city or territory may not work for another one. So, but I'm always trying to pull that out of them so I can figure out where I can share that information from one part of the country to another where it makes sense.
Yeah. So moving on, what fuels your leadership passion, and like how you start businesses and why?
Because I'm insane.
Well, we
I
kind of
mean,
already know that,
listen,
but
I started the fabric business because well, I was selling fabric line locally, regionally, and lost that line and decided to start my own. Well, I can do this. I can start a fabric company. Whoa, it's so easy. So a lot of times it's the you perceive a vacuum where you want to put something in its place to fill it, or a need that isn't being properly filled by somebody else. So you think, well, I can do it better.
yeah.
Um, isn't always the case, but um, so that sort of fuels my passion for starting companies. What I've found as I've aged and matured with my consulting business is I've become a lot more selective about um, two things. Number one, how many companies I consult to at the same time, because
Okay.
I just have a certain amount of capacity in my head and my fingers and my hours to be able to do so much work, and I don't want to have stretch myself so thin that I can't do a good job for everybody. So one of the things I do is be careful about the number of companies I'm involved with, try and sell for or sales manage for. The other thing is I'm more selective about who and what it is. I don't
Oh,
I don't I don't have to be a sales manager for every darn thing that's out there.
and it's always that 80-20% rule that, 20% of your clients produce 80% of your revenue and 80% of your clients produce 20% of your revenue.
Yeah, so true, and that's as trying to be a leader. Um, I um, as I age and mature, I find myself frequently with less patience for silliness and sloppy work and bad work and stuff like that. Less patient. I'm like the old grandpa that complains about everything. Um, and,
yeah.
and so I, as a leader, I'm trying to figure out how to dig myself out of that attitude, and trying to present myself when I'm at the firms that I'm working for, when I'm talking with my reps or talking to clients,
Yeah.
trying to be a more positive um, person and uh, not so darn crabby.
Well, I
Not
mean,
not
that's kind
always
of
not always saying no. I don't have time for this. No.
yeah, that started to be me towards the end of working in customer service. I transitioned in the last 2 weeks to doing produce at Publix. Definitely better for my my mental health. Less
Well, I hope you're
responsibility.
picking out all the black lettuce and throwing it away because nobody likes to see
So yeah, I can relate to that. I definitely towards the end I was like, I need a change, and that's kind of why I went to produce. Was I was like, I've been doing this for 16 years, I need a change. But moving
Well,
on.
I've learned with the firms that I consult to, and even the salespeople, the sales agencies that I work with, and the firms that I call on, all of them have leaders as well. And
Mhm,
I try to reach out to or listen to those people. I ask them their opinions, ask them what they would do in the situation.
mhm,
I acknowledge the fact that whatever their given thing is that they're doing, that they're better at it than I am,
mhm.
whether it's running a fabric mill or running a lighting company or importing stuff from Central and South America or Asia, or whatever. They're all things that I know about, but I'm not good at. So
Yeah.
one of my leadership skills or goals is to try and defer to those people to educate me and lead me and be the experts instead of me trying to pretend to be an expert in that
And
thing. And that's
yeah,
that
I definitely feel like being an entrepreneur, that is definitely a skill, because if you can't listen, then you're not going to have a team. And having people that are the best, I mean, that's what I like to do, is have people that are the best at what they're good at. And I think that's why the age old saying of the C students always hire the A and B students, because the C students know they're not good, the best at
no, we're
it.
not smart. Yeah. I know I can't program a computer, so I really need to hire a good computer programmer. Yeah,
Exactly.
that's
um
the problem is when you're an entrepreneur and you have a limited cash flow and limited revenue. Sometimes
yes.
you have to do things yourself. You can't afford to job it out.
Yep.
I have had to write websites. I've had to design websites, not because I'm good at it, or not because I want to, but because I can't afford to hire a web designer.
Hmm.
Or I have to do my own social media posts or write my own e-blasts, not because I don't want a marketing person, and not because a marketing person doesn't do a much better job. And I've been in marketing a long time, but because I have to, because I'm an entrepreneur and I can't, I can't, I have to do some of it myself, even if I'm not good at it. So yeah,
So moving on to the marketing, what lines, I guess, do you have as a national independent rep?
so everything that I do now is national. That's when I was telling you about how I'm being more choosy about what I take on. I'm not taking on any local or regional selling situations anymore, and
Okay.
that's something where I can't. I'm also not taking on anything where I'm not where I'm diffusing my focus into other markets. Like I'm not getting involved in the auto industry or
Okay.
the retail furniture industry or the grocery industry. I'm staying focused on contract and hospitality,
Okay.
marketplace, and the high end residential and senior living. So right now, Complete Hospitality Solutions has Agile Fabrics, which I own, which is a bleach cleanable, indestructible faux leather. Vinyls is what everybody calls it, but it's made out of silicone. Uh, Eclipse Hospitality, which is a case goods manufacturer that brings in stuff from Central America, South America, and Asia. El Sol Custom Lighting in Michigan, which is a US based manufacturer of custom and standard lighting, who just bought the assets and the designs of Fire Farm Lighting.
Oh, really?
Yep. Fire Farm was one of the casualties of the COVID economy. Just couldn't make it work. So El Sol, it's now Fire Farm by El Sol is the brand, and El Sol.
So let's move on to your bread and butter, lighting. What trends do you see as far as lighting and hospitality?
Hospitality and contract and lighting and design and architecture in general all seem to a lot of times be going in similar directions. So I see a big shift in the look of spaces trying to be more commercial spaces, trying to be more residential. And there's a strong movement to sort of a clever retro, mid-century modern, arts and crafts, transitional contemporary. Obviously, everything in lighting is LED. You really can't get incandescent bulbs anymore. And I just was having a discussion with a lighting fixture designer yesterday who designed something based on fluorescent tubes, and I said, "You really should switch that over to LED fluorescent."
I mean, didn't they ban them? I mean, I know they banned the 75 watt and the 100 watt.
Banning is an unfair. When the Energy Star program came about back in the beginning of the early 2000s, and the movement towards better energy efficient with fluorescence and compact fluorescence, which those Dairy Queen cones they were horrible.
Yes,
blue and everybody looked like corpses and looked dead, and they evolved and got better. But that was the beginning of the tiptoeing towards banning and outlawing is not the right word. There just was no point in producing 60-watt light bulbs when a 13-watt compact fluorescent or a 13-watt compact LED could do the same thing.
Yeah,
save the user money and save the utility companies demand and cut greenhouse gases and all that sort of stuff. So it just makes sense. You could still buy 60-watt and 75-watt light bulbs. You look around, you can still buy decorative incandescent bulbs and put them in your refrigerator, your microwave, or in your table lamps, whatever. But then when compact fluorescents first started, they looked crappy, and people and things looked crappy underneath them. And when the push came for LEDs, and everything that was coming in from overseas was blue white, and people looked like boxes, and furniture and carpet and walls looked completely different than what the architecture designer wanted to do. It was, I wouldn't say premature, but it was unfortunate because there wasn't good quality lighting products out there for end users or specifiers to work with to be able to get the results that they used to get with halogens and incandescents. Now, LED lighting, fluorescent lighting is sort of the old dinosaur. It's still super energy efficient, but there just aren't as many LED bulbs out there to switch out anymore as there used to be. So LED is the direction everybody's going, and now the color temperatures are nice and warm. The variety of the spectrum of color inside the bulbs, you get to see all the reds and the greens and the blues and the yellows, and so things look good, people look good, they don't flicker as much, they don't draw as much electricity. The only problem with them is that, a decade or so ago, when they first came out, there were all these charlatan salespeople, and I was not one of them, but I was seeing things going on in history where people going out and promising the moon to people and just being very disingenuous. They'll never burn out, and your grandchildren will still be using the same light bulb, 70 years from now. Well, that's not true. It's not the way it works. And they use no electricity, and your meter's going to roll backwards. So the utility company will pay you to put them in. So the lighting industry got a bad name from that kind of stuff, and light bulbs and LED bulbs and fluorescent bulbs got a bad name for that. So the trend I'm seeing is everybody wants everything LED. Everybody wants everything dimmable, whether they're ever going to dim something down or not. They just want to
Hmm.
be able to say it's a different. So well, you're always going to have your restaurant at 10%. Why the heck do you care whether it dims or not? But they want it. It's got to be dimmable. Okay, it's going to cost you, $500 more. But all right, just so be it.
So going on to that, how are you seeing because like me, I'm all about this the smart technology now with the light bulbs and and the outlets and whatnot. How is that affecting your I guess the lighting industry?
The theatrical lighting industry um, sometimes is a leader that commercial and hospitality pick up on later on because the techniques that are used in theatrical lighting end up becoming part of the mainstream. And theatrical lighting is always used for a long time. It was you literally you turn the light on and off the actual power. Then they went to low voltage wires to control the lighting remotely, and then now they have other systems. So some of that is starting to move into both residential and commercial lighting, where there's low voltage um, controllers, dimmer switches and on-off switches and stuff like that, scene controllers that are hardwired from the wall to the light fixture.
Gotcha.
So you don't run into that problem of somebody intentionally or accidentally messing with your scene or your theme for your restaurant or your lounge or your casino or your home.
So moving on, what is one habit, trait, or mindset that you're trying to work on right now?
I'm trying to be succinct in my communication, whether it's verbal or via email.
Mm,
Trying to learn that. Trying to be more positive. I work working for El Sol now as a consultant. The owner of El Sol does not know the word no. He
mm,
says yes to everything, even if he shouldn't.
yeah.
So and in my history as a sales manager, once I learn a company, I'm very quick to say no to a request when it's so far outside of the realm of what my factory can do that I'm better. It's easier on the architect or the designer instead of wasting their time. Just say, look, that we can't do that.
Yeah.
Also he can't say no. It's oh, I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to learn how to get back to yes and being comfortable with it, no matter what the results might be. So, and
And I think, I mean, I believe not being able to say no is can hurt you in the long run because you can't. You need to be able to set those boundaries sometimes.
no, a lot of the companies that I'm working for um, feel like our responses to customer and salespeople requests is taking too long. So I'm trying to learn how to streamline procedures and situations and make it easier for me to answer questions faster.
Okay.
And the companies I'm working for to be able to answer questions or provide information or send out data sheets or samples, whatever it is, faster within their comfort zone.
So where can everybody find you if they're looking to learn more about your company? Whether that's your website or social media or just all of the above in general.
So I'm extremely active on LinkedIn and Facebook, to a lesser extent on Instagram and uh, Twitter and Pinterest.
Okay.
Um, each of the companies that I work for has a fairly good website. So farfarm.com, elsolcustomlighting.com, agilefabrics.com, eclipsehospitality.com, marblesystems.com. Unfortunately, Complete Hospitality's website is languishing because I've been spending more time working on other people's websites. So I believe the URL exists and the URL is paid for with GoDaddy, but I think there's no content on Complete Hospitality
Okay.
Solutions.com right now. Or it's complete-hospitality.com, and that's a horrible thing to admit, but it's much better to be transparent and upfront about that. I'm
Hmm.
more concerned that the lighting and fabric and stone and case goods websites are good than my
Yeah.
consulting website. I don't need I need more clients. I always need more clients, but I don't. It's there's there's very little benefit to me.
Well, and they're going to go to to spec from the actual
Yeah,
manufacturer.
yeah. I
So
mean, every once in a while on social media, I'll be posting about something that I'm doing as complete hospitality. But usually, what I'm posting about is something that my factory is doing, or my rep is doing, or my customer is doing, and stuff like that. So it's not about me. It's about them. It's about the projects and the stuff that they're doing and things like
uh,
that. And I am available. Sadly, as any of my friends and family will tell you, I'm available all the time on text message. I won't usually answer the phone
yeah.
after when I answer after 6 or 7. The first thing I say is I tell somebody how many martinis or how many glasses of wine I've had. I'm answering the phone, but I'm warning you. I've had 3 glasses of Cabernet, so I cannot. You may have to re-ask this question tomorrow morning when I've had coffee instead of wine.
Okay. Well, it's been great talking with you, Andy. We've learned about, how you got in the industry, what your leadership's like. We've learned about your business, Complete Hospitality Solutions, and what you see as far as the design industry and lighting. But before I go, I have one more question for you. What advice do you have for aspiring leaders?
Find mentors.
Yeah, that is definitely a good one.
This whoever is above you at whatever firm you're working with, whether you're working for them, alongside them, selling to them, buying from them. If the business is successful, there's somebody at the top that has good advice. And when I had great mentors back in the beginning of my inside sales and marketing career, and I worked for an independent agency for 13 years at the beginning of my career. And the owner of that company had so many corny, ridiculous sayings. Common sense isn't common, and the average person can't work here, and you can't sell from an empty wagon, and all these silly sayings that we would all laugh when we'd leave the office. And now, 20 and 30 and 40 years later, I think back and go, wow. Besides the silly sayings, that guy's work ethic was, always make photocopies of your business cards, and always send out a thank you letter, and always, you know,
Hmm.
always follow up with the customer, and always, always file the B's under B, don't, and always have a good secretary. So having good mentors, and even if you don't believe or understand what they're saying initially, filing it away, it'll regurgitate and come back out later
Yeah.
on. Oh my God, my mom and dad were right. Damn it. Mentors, it's always a tough thing because, I've been involved in AWH for a long, long time, and they're big on mentorship. And we've talked about that at board meetings, and younger individuals in the industry will ask, well, how do I find a mentor? And that's a tough question too. I sometimes you don't realize someone is a mentor until you step back,
Yep.
or you'll look back on your life, or your career, a previous job or a previous company, and go, oh my God, that I didn't realize it then, but that person was mentoring me, and I should have paid more attention to them, or I should learn from what happened there. So that's a tough thing. You can't just go on LinkedIn or Facebook or go
No.
to a networking event and say, hey, would you be my mentor? But um, figuring out, finding who they are.
Well, it's all about relationship building, honestly. And you're right. You can't just be like, be my mentor. It's about building those relationships. And yes, whether or not, maybe down the line they'll actually be your mentor when you actually look back on it is true.
Yeah,
I mean, like you and me, like we've kept in touch for I don't know how many years now, but
it is all about relationships, and that's for a person in my position, and when I'm being um, asked to consult to somebody, or asked to work for somebody as a sales manager and consultant, um, they're always interested about relations. So I always have to caution them that I'm very protective of my relationships. I can't afford a bad
You can't afford your
connection.
brand or your
Yeah,
reputation.
a bad connection with a bad person or a bad manufacturer to sully my relationship with friends that I've had in the industry for a long time. That who will text me or call me, out of the blue and say, "Hey, what do you know about this?" And that happens to me a lot. So yeah, those relationships are important. It is where the mentorship comes from, but um, you have to cherish them and protect them.
Yeah. Thank you all for watching Empowering Design. And if you enjoyed today's content, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video. We'll see you in 2 weeks for our next episode of Empowering Design.